It's fun. You can fight about the pool. I think it's fun to fight about the pool, Andrew. Should have seen this during COVID.
Craig will be back.
We just missed the
All right, what we're gonna do, welcome to the discussion session of Tuesday, July 11th. Sorry for late. We're gonna keep things going as quickly as we can. We'll start with Manager McGill reviewing the agenda for tonight's commission meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. We only have one meeting in July, so we do have a fairly long agenda. We have the consideration for the adoption of a standard resolution for planning module for Black Oak Hill Development. That's 10 single-family homes on Gilpin and Cedar. They've received preliminary approval from the planning board for that land development plan. We also have the request for final approval of the subdivision and land development plan for the residences at Poplar Project on Pennsylvania Boulevard. That's 5 two-family dwellings. I will tell you that this is a presentation only. This will be before the commission at their August meeting for consideration of the actual approval. We have the consideration for the release of financial security posted for the First National Bank land development plan. That's down on Coffin Road. We have consideration of to award a change order for the 2023 street reconstruction contract. You'll hear about that in discussion. We have consideration of the execution of a development agreement for retaining wall and grading at 1270 Pinewood. We have request for final approval of a lot consolidation for property located at 350, 360 Castle Shannon Boulevard. That's the former Ivy Inn property. We have consideration to award a contract to provide professional services for a main park site plan and recreation center architectural study. We will also hear about that during discussion session. We have consideration for the award of the Mount Lebanon Golf Course cart path improvements. We talked about that at the last discussion session. We have consideration to purchase one ready-to-use closed circuit television CCTV mainline sewer inspection system and Ford Transit van. And the current equipment is 25 years old. We have the consideration for the rejection of the bid for the Arden Road traffic calming improvement project, and also the consideration for the rejection of the bid for the Grafton Park renovation project.
All right, I was hoping Commissioner Grell is here, but we need to proceed forward. Next on the agenda, I'm going to see if maybe we just do the second half of this. It's listed as review of the bid process and a change order for the street reconstruction contract. We're due to vote on that change order tonight. So if you could start with the addressing the change order. And I'm sorry, I'm sure you prepared the rest of your proposal, but the rest of your information, but if we could just focus on that change order discussion.
So the discussion last time was that there's some work that we would like to take place over on Arden Road to address some traffic calming, and that the major elements to that site coincide with our street reconstruction project. So it was my thought that we reach out to the contractor who is doing our street reconstruction, make sure he has capacity. He is already mobilized and available to do the work. He did provide a proposal to us. Like I said, his major elements are concrete curb and paving, which are included in his bid that we already have. He did have to add some other items to that that are within the proposal, but I think we've reviewed those in comparison to what we thought they should be. And again, it's tough to judge the market on such a project like this because there are some odd things that are required in it in terms of a lot of line striping, the signs and so forth. But again, this is an all-inclusive number. So we were able to get a price in for 194, 386 on this one, 25, which is the exact number. I don't know if you want me to care for me to elaborate any further than this, other than he's available to do the work. He can do the work this year, and it would be done. It's much less than it was, at least from the only other bid that we received.
Right now, the budget amount, the original proposal, the budget amount was 166,000. Is this kind of apples to apples to that? You mentioned it.
Oh, it's exactly the same.
Okay.
And we checked with Andrew that there is capacity.
We'd use a combination of traffic calming budget and then savings we know that we will have through the street reconstruction program.
Okay.
Fund the project.
Okay, all right.
Outstanding.
That's it.
Any questions from Commissioner on this?
Every year we have a traffic calming budget. I think that was approved last year. Are there any funds in that left over? Not for the Arden specific, but just a general.
The total
traffic
budget, I think the last time I looked, sat at about 175. So if we use 166 out of it,
Mhm.
and I don't know what we've expended since the last time I looked.
Right. Yeah, so a little bit of.
Not much.
We do have capacity.
Okay.
Anybody else? Any questions on the behind schedule here? I know there's some question about the bids. If the Commission wants to talk about that later. We can set that for another discussion session.
About the bid process, right?
Yes,
That's-
about the bid process.
Yeah, Grella
So
mentioned,
we want to have that.
cut out a part of the agenda today for time, because we're trying to make up 45 minutes.
that's fine.
Okay,
All right, so if we can reschedule that bid for other piece, thank you for the audit, or excuse me, the audible there. Next, master park site plan and rec center architectural study. Ian McMeans. We have, yes,
Yes, we do. So, thank you, commissioners, for having us once again today. With me are John Burkle from Patrick MTR and Chris Brown from Draw Collective. Chris is a Mount Lebanon resident as well. Yes, okay, and so we are here to talk about the Main Park Site Plan and Architectural Study. I'll do a brief overview of the process we went through, and then the staff team is recommending the commission enter into a contract with Patrick MTR and Draw Collaborative, or Draw Collective, sorry. Yes, a collaborative between Patrick and Draw Collective, yes. All right, there we go. So to talk about the process, we went through, the commission adopted the overall Parks Master Plan in May of last year. In the operating budget that was approved in December, $80,000 was allocated towards this specific Main Park Site Plan and Architectural Study of the Recreation Center. This was one of the key recommendations of the Parks Master Plan, was to do this Main Park Site Plan so that as we made investments in Main Park, we actually had a plan for how it was going to be instead of just piecemealing things, like how Main Park had kind of been put together over time. So this was a key recommendation of the Parks Master Plan. So by funding this project at the meeting later tonight, you will be continuing to fulfill those recommendations. The core project team, from the staff standpoint, I was the staff lead. Commissioner Swagger Wilson was our commission champion. Recreation Director David Donnellan, Phil Avolio, our Parks and Facilities Coordinator, Greg Wharton, our Planning and Sustainability Coordinator, and then two liaisons, Richard Heisey from the Parks Advisory Board and Steven Strottmeyer from the Sports Advisory Board, all served on our core internal project team. So the timeline, the team issued the RFP at the beginning of May. We did a walkthrough of potential consultants at the end of May. Responses were due by June 1st. We received 6 responses, which is a very healthy response. Same number of responses that we received for the comprehensive plan project last year. So we were very happy with that number. The project team reviewed the responses. We conducted interviews of the top 3 firms, and the project team has recommended that the municipality enter into a contract with Patrick MTR and Draw Collective as the consultant to perform this work. So the timeline moving forward would be to award the contract tonight at the commission meeting, and then the consultants can begin their work afterwards.
so this summer you'd be able to start. Is the
Yes.
goal. Okay.
So now I will turn it over to the folks from Patrick and Draw to talk about what they bring to the table.
Ian, just quick reference, you said we budgeted 80.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ian.
Yes.
How do I advance?
Just the,
Okay,
there, please, yeah.
wonderful. I will, I'm going to go through this very quickly to try to take up some time for you. John Burkle from Patrick MTR, principal. I've been with the firm for 35 years. Chris Brown.
Chris Brown, principal with Draw Collective. Don't know us, we're down the street on 470 Washington Road. We've been there since 1947. Previously VEBH, we rebranded it a couple years ago.
And Valdering.
Valdering and
before that?
Bonner, before that, Bonner now, yeah,
Yes.
it goes back there.
The faces that you see in the slide are the faces of the folks that will be working on this particular project. Myself, Nancy Lynette Roman, who is also principal of Patrick MTR, Heather Tyler, who is a recreation and park specialist, who will assist with staffing, maintenance, operations. She always keeps us honest when we like to come up with these really beautiful plans. She makes sure that they can be properly maintained and will function properly. Eric Brightman, he's a landscape architect that joined us about 5 years ago. He formerly worked for Central Parks Conservancy. Alex Swiget, who came to us about 2 years ago from the Natural Learning Initiative, which is a play think house based out of the University of Georgia, I believe it is. And so she's a real specialist on natural play design. And then, of course, Jim Paschik, who I believe you probably have met through the comprehensive planning process. And Jenny Easton, of course, all of you know her from the process.
And then on our team, Amy George is, she's primarily an interior designer. She also joined us to manage construction projects. She came from the YMCA as her background. She managed construction and operation of WISE, so recreation planning and recreation management is kind of her sweet spot and what she knows and loves, and kind of making facilities that are good operational facilities. And then Dan Engen up there is another partner and the president of our company. And all three of us are Mount Lebanon residents as well, but it's a pretty special one for us.
The next slide, I'm going to skip over. This is why I collaborate with our team. We've made it this far through the interview process, so I'm assuming that there's a level of comfort and understanding of our two firms. Our project approach, which is really important. The first part of the project will determine where are we now. We'll be working to understand what the existing recreation activities and facilities within the park, how they operate, how they function, what conflicts there are, what synergies there may be in other areas, and what the opportunities and constraints are. Parking, we know, is an issue. Topography is an issue, but topography is also what makes your park so beautiful. And so really, how do we capitalize on that in terms of moving forward in integrating the facilities within the landscape as we begin to think about the future of the park? The second part of the project is where do we want to be? That's the vision goals. What do we need to support the 30,000 residents of Mount Lebanon in terms of recreation and park facilities with respect to Manning Park? And then the last half of the project really is how do we get there? That's where we develop the recommendations and prepare the roadmap to provide you with a implementable plan that will instruct you how to move forward with implementing the recommendations of the plan. Really, including funding opportunities, cost estimates for all proposed improvements. Our deliverables include illustrated site plan with the implementation strategies, rec center floor plan, elevations, facade renderings. We'll work with Dan and his staff at Gateway Engineers to address the civil engineering aspects of the park. And then really dive into maintenance and operations and revenues and expenses. What staffing do you have based on some national metrics? How does that compare to what those national metrics recommend for a community of this size? And what does that mean in terms of moving forward to make sure that you're providing a high quality operation of the park itself? Addressing the sites, so you're very familiar with the site. Wayfinding, connectivity, accessibility. We have an accessibility inspector on staff that will come out and evaluate the accessibility or lack thereof within the park and make recommendations.
Just say inaccessible.
Yes.
Start there.
Right. Topography and trees, our goal is to maintain as many of the healthy trees as we possibly can. Trees are very important to us for many, many reasons. And so if we're looking at facilities, we are going to do the best we can to work around those existing trees. Sustainability and stormwater management, those are big issues. Aesthetics, parking, and then of course, maintenance and operations again. Turning challenges into opportunities. How do we turn the challenge of topography into an opportunity. How do we address the mounds around the existing recreation center site, which is currently a challenge, and turn that into an opportunity? And Chris will talk a little bit more about that. You can see some examples on the right-hand side of the slide there of ways that we've done that in other projects. We have Arsenal Park in Lawrenceville, and then New Wilmington Berkeley Park, a small amphitheater area built into the hillside there. Parking will be a topic of discussion, as we all know, with regards to the park. First of all, we need to understand, based on the facilities and activities that we have here, what is the parking demand? And then we know what the capacity is. That's pretty easy to figure out. But how can, where are there opportunities to increase parking within the park while still maintaining the beautiful character that the park has? And so how can that happen? And knowing when to say when, enough is enough. That will be, part of weighing the pros and the cons of the facilities and the recommendations that we make on facilities, because they generate parking needs.
And is there an effort to consider the school? We have a school that's
Yes,
adjacent. it's
in the
closed
school
3 months of the
parking,
year.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was addressed in the pre-proposal walkthrough, and then we're very aware that, yeah, there's an agreement that can be used off of school time for the park. And so that's.
And I've already talked with some representatives from the school district about once we have a consultant on board, getting them involved, in our discussion groups on how we can integrate things as well.
Perfect.
And then on the recreation center piece of it, we'll be working with Patrick throughout the overall process that they'll be going through on the park, and we've worked with them on dozens of projects in the past. So I think we'll team well together on that. And then as draw architects, our role will be looking more closely at the recreation center building and what can be done to improve that. We'll be going through an exercise of kind of figuring out the program of what kind of spaces you need to add or improve in the building, what works and what doesn't, just in terms of the operations level of spaces that might be needed, and then just looking at it and how it works with the rest of the park. And some of the things have already come up in our initial meetings, and just looking at it, that front entrance is so far back from the drop-off area, and doing something to bring that up and make a more welcoming entrance to the building, circulation through the building, separation between you go on the first floor and how do you get to the second floor, and acceptability between those two, and even the connection up to the pool could become something that's part of the building and not the sidewalk around the side. So looking at all those things and how that all works together with the building and kind of doing an overall modernization. And then we've talked some about the mounds on the building and kind of the maintenance headache those are, and the ability of people to just get on the roof. It's got a lot of great features that aren't great. So I think that's something we obviously, there's a lot of interest in doing what we can to get rid of those. We shared a project we're actually under construction on right now where we faced a very similar issue down in the Trinity School District near Washington, PA. They had the same kind of thing with these mounds against the building that really kind of ruined the use of that area of the building and the slope and the topography there. So we're carving those out and exposing that part of the building. You have to kind of reclad that part of the building. And at that project, we're actually making a play area outside the building with a little more direct access to it. So we created a usable space as part of that, and then made the building function a little better too. And then we also put together on this next page some of those kind of ideas of just what, not for this project, but the idea of creating a more welcoming open entry. That's sort of the opposite of that black dark band you go back into. And it's just another overview of that Trinity site where you can see we carved away the building and exposed it, but created space up against the building that's usable instead of these float mounds that are not really good for much except sitting there against the building. And then we had this slide in there for the interview. We are architects and we work on primarily publicly bid projects, whether it's school districts or state projects at college universities. So working in the public realm, working on projects that come in under budget on time is sort of our bread and butter. So we'd be bringing that even to the early planning phases and making sure it's conceived with an approach that's buildable, constructible, and be something that we wouldn't be throwing money away that we might need to spend later on other parts of the project.
Public engagement and programming. Of course, we have the benefit of the public engagement process through the comprehensive planning that will has already generated a lot of information with regards to parking and recreation and what the views are related to Main Park. And so we're really gonna focus our public engagement on the second half. So when we have some concepts, we take those concepts to the public and really focus on, getting input. They've done enough surveys, they've told us enough times what they want. Now we need to show them and get reaction of how they react to what we're proposing. And I spoke already about operations, maintenance, and financial recommendations, all terribly important. I know when we did work for the State College, folks in State College, we worked with them. And their financial folks, actually, because they were going through a bond issue to finance the improvements for 2 regional parks. And so we worked with them, we took the cost estimates for the parks and then worked back and forth with their financial people to set up the bonding structure.
How accurate are cost estimates these days? Sorry.
Well, yeah, no, with COVID, you're absolutely right.
Right
But
now.
we're starting to get a bit better
It's getting
handle
better?
on it.
For stabilizing.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
When we're escalating the cost because of those supply chain types of things, we're closer to what the numbers are coming in at. As opposed to that, than having them come in very high.
The question related to cost, this probably jumps back to where you were before. Which you bid what you bid, we're saying, well, we don't quite want to fund all that. So,
I
we
had
want to
that,
get the full loaf of bread, but we're not going to pay for it, so. Can you do that?
but I had that conversation, while I was on vacation and,
In Ireland, you called
I
me from
called
Ireland,
him
yes.
from a car park in Ireland. And spoke while my wife sat there, I'm looking at her watch. But, yes, so what we want to work for you. The flip side is that you get what you pay for at the end of the day. And so how do we come to terms of, if we're looking at reducing costs, what do we cut in terms from our scope of work to get that number down? And we feel pretty good, in the conversation Ian and I had of getting down to a fee of 125,000. So we were, I think, 133,000 and change. And so that was based on Ian's evaluation of where hours were assigned, and discussion about, well, maybe we can reduce the number of meetings that we have on certain things. There was some information coordinating with magazine folks, and Ian said, well, we'll just take care of that. There'll be a lot of coordination. So that's where we are with our number right now. We can't get it down, unfortunately, to 80,000 without making significant cuts to the quality of what we want to do. So we would ask for your consideration to increase the budget to 125. Now, we will also do that on a time and materials basis. So if we can come in under budget and not spend all of that, you'll be the beneficiary of that. So.
All their hourly rates were listed out in their proposal, so when John and I talked, we kind of said we, keep track of
Right.
where they were spending time, how much was spent, and then
Right.
kind of where we were from a budget standpoint, and if we can, shave a couple hours off here and there, that'll make a difference in the
It's
long
very
run, too.
detailed, Steve. I mean, you could go through easily and figure out where, we could do the GIS instead of them kind of thing.
All right,
That's where
I just
Ian
wanted to
did
make
that.
sure we weren't, we were going into this thing, both of us, both sides with open eyes.
No, yeah.
Yes.
Of what our expectations are, yours, so, thank you.
Good questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate the time.
I have a commission question. We need to make that decision tonight. Do you want
Correct.
to do that as part of the unassigned funds, or do you want to?
It's in.
Well, as a matter of fact, that's our next topic.
We saw that. We already like,
it's in
So there was
Well,
a, yeah, there was a.
let's get Andrew to the table and then we'll.
okay,
Put it
so
all
we'll
together.
have that as that.
We'll have Andrew on the screen.
He is on the screen right now, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there he is, hey.
So yeah, there,
It's not the same without you in the building, Andrew, I'll tell you.
No, where are you?
That's very generous of you, but I don't know if that's the case. But it's a little quieter, I imagine. Maybe I'm screaming over everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, no problem. Where in the world are you?
That's unknown. You can't know that answer.
You're in an undisclosed location, all right.
Undisclosed location for unassigned fund balance discussions. Here we go. So I'll make it quick. I know we got a little press for time here. So I detailed a brief memo to you with a outline of projects that were up for discussion for our unassigned fund balance. For those at home, we every year look at our unassigned fund balance of a goal of 12 to 15%. Anything above the 15%, we do give projects available to the commission to use those funds. This year, it's 459,000 to discuss for tonight. In addition, on top of that, we did have some savings in ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act funds, just where projects came into under budget. So we wanted to make sure we teamed that up with here. So it's a total of about 779,000 total. So 320,000 in savings for the ARPA budget. So that is where we kind of kick off to know. So I was going to structure this to be somewhat similar to what we have during budget, is where I give you a listing. This should remind you a lot of November. So I'll have that up here on the screen here in just a second. The first 10 projects on this, everybody see that okay?
You make that a little larger,
Andrew, we see 11 of them.
Okay, you see 11 of them. All right, see if I can make it a little bigger for you. I don't know why it's not making it bigger, but I think that's as big as I can get it right now. You should have those. This is the same that's on your listing. Only one updated number for the Timber Creek stairs. But items 1 through 10 on the screen right now are all ones that came from the budget discussions for 2023. So when we had the budget discussions in 2023, these were items that were capital and non-personnel in nature that were not funded, but were on the commissions to be considered list. So we wanted to present those to you this evening. I had presented these in March as part of our discussion for year-end financial statements, that these could potentially be up for consideration during our discussion for unassigned fund balance. Those projects include the library building entrance concrete stairs and concrete repairs, a route analysis and GPS route management for ice and snow control, Cedar at Hollycrest and Salem improvements, the Timber Creek stairs improvements, Brick Street reconstruction appropriation increases, an ice rink resurfacer, tennis court lighting, North Meadowcroft Phase 3, the Sign Shop painting vehicle, so that'd be a new vehicle for the sign shop, as well as Bird Park parking lot. So those were the items that came from the budget for those first 10 items. Next, yes.
Andrew, number 9, the part of the vehicle. You
Yes.
said vehicle purchased, as a new vehicle to be purchased, or was that vehicle purchased already?
No, need to be purchased.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. So this would replace, that specific item is to replace a van that tows a trailer. This would be an all-in-one vehicle. Would increase efficiencies, safety, all those things for those that are on the sign shop and line painting. So that's all contained within one vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
More detail on that one. Yep. So on top of that, we have other items that have come up in 2023. Some the commission should know about, some others they may not. So we'll briefly go through those, and then we'll be able to extrapolate and give any additional information from department heads that are here in the building or on Zoom to answer any questions. So number 11 is an equipment replacement. So due to timing, we were unable to get the greens mower in 2023, but we were able to use those funds for 2 other pieces of vital equipment at the golf course. So this request would be to assign equipment to be encumbered, but to be purchased at a 2024. So this would be for the greens mower in 2024 to order it now so that we can ensure that we get it in 2024. This is all due to the supply chain. You know, we're still dealing with some of those lingering effects. So that would be that one. Next would be the fire training facility. So this is what the commission is very familiar with, so I won't spend much time on it. There's about $1 million in funding based on estimates right now that is still needed. Sidewalk installations, this is for in accordance with our sidewalk installations and our new policy that we have coming forward. So we want to make sure that if the commission would like to appropriate any funds to any sidewalks that they foresee coming in the near future, they have the opportunity to do so. We have the refuse and recycling contract, which we know is going to be close to 7 figures in an increase next year, depending on what the commission decides to do, whether it be manual or automated collection. So we wanted to make sure that if you wanted to soften some of that blow in the 2024 budget, you have the ability to do that now with unassigned fund balance. Next is the inspections, permit and code enforcement software. This was a request of Commissioner Swager Wilson, who would like to put that on the commission agenda or to commission consideration for these funds. The cart path improvements, we've talked about that,
Right.
about the overage.
Andrew,
Say-
real
say
quick,
again?
that was the same that we discussed at the budget, right? We discussed it at the last budget season.
Yes.
Yes, it did not make that list at the budget session, but
Right.
yes, this is something they
It's the
would like
same
to put on.
Okay,
Yes,
I'm with
same
you.
item. That's correct. That's correct.
Following Commissioner Reddy's question, we had talked about some stuff here in discussion after the budget.
Yeah.
Was that 175 the number that came out of that? Because remember, we had a long discussion. We said, bring us back some ideas for that intersection.
Oh, that's a different number.
You're on
We're
a
talking
different
about
thing.
perment code enforcement software.
Oh,
for
no, I'm sorry. I was thinking the
inspections.
Yeah,
170.
number 15, yeah.
Great.
Just, we'll get into these in specific detail. Commissioner Silverman, let's just finish this up here. So we got about 4 or 5 items left. So the cart path improvements, this is just for the overage and the bid. So you have an item tonight, I believe on the agenda to approve at either a lower number, which is the budgeted number, or to increase to finish all the cart paths that would be on the site. So that's for that one. You just heard about the Main Park and Recreation Center study. The additional funding is needed at 45,000. The Public Safety Center facade and roof improvements. So we had budgeted for this at a $200,000 number as the first of 5-year project. So we were going to treat it much like the municipal building we did a couple years ago, in which we were going to phase this over 5 years. We're going to start at the roof. This is what this bid is for, and then do the sides of the building to tighten up and seal the Public Safety Center from any water penetration and other repairs that may be needed. So the roof, it came in at about 301,000. And so that was just the construction bid. So we're about 121,000 short on that project. So that's up for consideration as well. The Arden Road traffic calming, we talked about that this evening. If you do decide to go with the Neando proposal and the change that was discussed this evening, that number does go down to 28,400 as opposed to 120,000. But there is capacity within the street reconstruction budget to cover that. I don't necessarily think at that $28,000 number, we need to specifically appropriate unassigned or ARPA money for that. And lastly is the Bratherton Field improvement. These were bids that were received that were significantly over what we had budgeted at 81,000. So these bids came in significantly higher. I believe we only had one bidder as well. So we need to relook at that, or we can go with that bid. But I believe staff's recommendation is to relook at those specs. But we wanted to give the option to the commission to look at that as well for funding.
Thank you.
So those are running through all those. So we can kind of go through here. We can start at one if you'd like, or however the commission would like to move forward. I'll leave that to you, Commissioner Silverman.
And that was me that added that, Commissioner H. I was just scribbling kind of notes, ideas of, you know, if we funded whatever to, I mean, first
Yeah,
question
that's
for
right.
commission is, one, do we want to allocate all $779,000 to something?
Good question.
So that's the first question, the unassigned funds down to 15% and the ARPA funds. So I think that's the first thing is, what is our number we are interested in reassigning? So I'm proposing that we allocate that 779 to a number of these projects, but are there 3 votes to do that?
I'd support that.
I
All
would
right,
too.
okay, so 3 votes for that, okay. Next thing is, again, to the question of where to start. One of the things that Andrew McCreary had mentioned about a possible bond, which is why, again, as I was scribbling, you know, my notes there of saying, are there items we're interested in funding is a bond or a note rather than with unassigned funds. So that's just my notes, that's just,
Okay, that
One
last
thing
column
that
is
is-
yours.
yeah, that's totally mine, that's not
Okay.
Andrew.
So
You know,
is a note a loan? Is that what you mean by?
Well,
Yes.
the idea is to
Yes.
say,
Okay.
take the fire
Andrew's
facility, for
not.
instance, to say,
Okay.
that's $1 million.
Yeah.
Do we take that and perhaps some of these other items and fold that into some sort of bond or note? Obviously, we heard from the folks who are talking about Main Park, the rec center, whatnot, there's things that get added to that once that plan gets more fleshed out. But I just looked and said, trying to allocate $779 penny worth of $779,000 worth of projects, how to try and get multiple bites at addressing these needs. So that's why you see it again back to, it's there, it's hardly chiseled in stone, that's just my notes. I didn't realize I was testing in live, so there you are. So having said all that, can I make some suggestions of just sort of starting on the easy stuff? Like where, on item 19 about Arden Road, where Andrew McCreary is saying, hey, that could be funded from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we just start by saying we'd be fine with having that extra 28,400 paid for from the street reconstruction program.
Right.
If that's the case, that kind of takes that off the list.
I would support that as long as that's, just want to hear from the manager, that's definitely true. No problem funding it.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, okay.
Andrew and I have discussed.
All right, great. All right, so Andrew, however you're adjusting that for
Comes out.
our scorekeeping. The other is we're supposed to vote on tonight, the main park site plan and rec study, that additional $45,000. Do we have 3 votes to say that $45,000 gets paid for from this?
Sure, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes with that as well. I'm a big fan of the cart path improvements to say, look, it's efficient if we just get it all done. It's $12,000. We've learned that the golf course wants to fix it. So that's 2 votes to spend the 12,000. Is there a third vote? I see it. Feel like an auctioneer. Yes, I've got a third. Okay, so we got a yes to that. So I think that kind of picks off some of the easy stuff. I just, it's there for consideration. These various projects, we obviously have a big number coming for the new trash contract. We want to save some money to try and reduce the hurt with the new trash contract, and that's why I put that there. Again, just throwing out for commission to think about. It may not be the final number. This is part of the discussion process. So, we lost the spreadsheet here. There we go. Thank you. So anyway, that's kind of where we are. So, Keith, do you have any, things you want to kind of guide us? It's really important for staff.
I'll just start by saying for the trash contract, and we're gonna finish that discussion on the 8th, because you have to vote on it
Right.
that night. Andrew had proposed, along with Ian, some potential ways to address that.
Yes.
Either continuing to leave it in the tax base, which in which case we've got to find a little over $1 million.
Mhm.
To take the increased portion and start doing that as a fee, or to take the whole amount and pass that on as a fee. So that'll be a decision point for the commission.
Right.
I appreciate your question, Steve, and as I responded to you in the email, there are some pieces of information that I don't know from a budget standpoint yet. I do have no idea what our healthcare costs will look like. We will start to have that discussion probably in the August, September timeframe.
Okay, yeah,
I also don't know what our workman's comp rates will look like.
sure.
So there are some unknowns out there, but I do think it makes sense. I completely agree that we should rebid the Brafferton Field.
Okay.
That was my question, because I didn't know it was over
We had
budget.
one bidder, we were not ideal with the timing. Staff wants to take another look at that to say, is there anything
Okay.
that we can do in-house to potentially
To do that. Yeah.
elicit some cost savings?
I'll just kind of flag though, just for the public and everybody, that was one of the top 5, I think, recommendations for the master plan. So as long as we get it done,
And I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I
I don't
just,
want to waste money though.
I was gonna say, I think it's, we're better served to rebid and try to get a better number.
Yeah.
And
Steve,
one
I
of the things
wanna,
that I had there, excuse me, if there had been time for the presentation, was the timing of the bids, that doing it earlier in the year helps us. So following that, rebidding early 2024, hopefully we get some more interest, better numbers.
Inspections. I get incredible numbers of questions about inspections, complaints, on and on and on. That's probably because of my background and the people I know.
I totally agree. I have to go through my emails, but inspection complaints in my ward probably came close to the number of tree complaints I got this year.
Okay, so
That should be a first.
This opens a
That's-
window. What this does is it opens a window and it makes it a much more transparent system. So if you're the architect who applied for the permit, you can go in and see where it is, what's missing on this, what's not missing on it, have I done it? The homeowner can do it as well, the contractor can do it as well. Now they play each other off. And it's not fair. It's not
Oh, I
fair to the
agree.
homeowner who then calls us and I call poor Rodney and Rodney sits
Waste of
down.
money, it's a waste of
Waste of
time.
I was part of the deep
Yeah.
dive in inspections. We've
Yeah.
heard that.
Right,
exactly
and this
as
will
you're
cut
describing.
down on legacy costs of more inspectors even. I mean, I think we really ought to put this in
Okay.
and see if it doesn't improve our efficiencies a great deal.
Information, yes, is for sure.
Yeah, and information, yeah,
It will also
Yes.
provide better reporting to the commission,
yes, true,
so that
Thank
you will
you.
see more detail than what you currently see
right.
in that monthly
Yeah.
report.
Commissioner Flynn, any thoughts on that line item?
You're okay with it? Yep.
I couldn't
Just
tell.
as an FYI,
Yes.
just as an FYI, I'm gonna put this 2 cents in. Is that you're gonna have an operating cost, I believe, of close to 40,000 a year for this software.
Okay.
40.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Josh, I think Josh is in the audience and Rodney's there, but
It's almost 30.
is it almost 30? Okay, I was a little over, but yeah, just know that you're committing to that operating cost as well.
Okay,
That is not there at all. It's not replacing anything because it's all done in-house currently.
right.
Right. All right. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you, Andrew, for mentioning that, that legacy cost.
Mary, do you know where to capture all this? I'm not seeing if it's updating there. Okay. You-
If I could jump around.
Is it on there? It should be on there.
Yeah, we see it.
Do you have a running total?
I just didn't see the running.
It's at
total.
the top.
Well,
gee,
we have a
okay.
window that's,
Yeah, we're.
140, 142.1. No, you can see it. It's E2.
Right here.
can you just minimize that video on the top
Or
right?
move the video to top left rather than top right. There you go.
We're good.
That's good.
Oh geez.
We're good,
That's what I
we're
meant to
good.
do. Okay,
so
cool.
We are. Which column should we be looking at as far as what we used so far?
E2.
One G1 is telling you've used 141, 142.1, and then if you look at G7, that's your remaining.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
G7 is running.
Who's running that?
Can I-
Hold on, hold on. Okay,
Yeah. Can I throw out something? It's something we had talked a lot.
Hold on,
about.
Steve, hold on.
Sure.
Whoever's running the video screen for Zoom, can you minimize that and move it way to the top right? There you go.
thank you.
Thank you.
Or top left.
No, that's good. It doesn't block anything.
Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
Thank you. This is item 3, traffic calming Cedar Holy Crest. And that was the one we had some extensive discussion session about various options for that intersection. I think we all had some interest in wanting to do something. But we
Absolutely.
said, let's wait till we get to now, or now. Is that 170, that was a question I'd asked earlier about, there were some various proposals brought to us for line markings and so forth,
What
and
do we
I'm
get for
starting to
one
bring my
seventy-five,
notes.
Dan?
enough?
I'm here.
What do we get for 175?
I don't remember from the various whatevers, if it's 175, that was the zebra crossing.
You get the
Started.
extension of, you get the narrowing of.
Yeah.
The intersection,
Section,
Right,
that's at, Holly Crest,
right,
right,
that's at bump out.
yeah,
right,
You get additional, I'll say,
striping.
paint markings.
Mhm.
You get the in pavement rapid flashing beacon like we have
Those
up on
things, yep,
Washington.
Flashing
Road.
light thing.
yes.
Correct.
Oh, that- like, okay.
And I'm trying to remember if there was another piece to it.
so we get all that from 175?
I think that's.
Well, number one, I wouldn't recommend, you're not gonna bid it this year.
Right,
We would bid it in spring of next year to be ready
Yeah.
to do it.
Budgetarily, you think that's doable? Question mark.
Based upon what we've seen so far this year, it might be a little bit light, at least with the one bid that we just got in for Arden. So,
it's hard to tell.
it is hard to tell. I mean, what we would do is we would bid it with some options that we could get the minimum project in and then add on to stay within budget. That's the
Okay,
only way
yeah.
to do it.
So it's add
If
alternate.
you really want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I propose then we fund that 175 for those
Absolutely.
things Keith identified?
Yeah.
We set that 175 aside, so.
I support
got
that.
1, 2, 3 votes for
Yeah.
that, thank you. Okay, that takes us to, about 462,000 left. Did you, things that, back to the manager where the absolute
I
must.
would, I would do the library concrete
Yes.
repairs.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I agree with that. Do we have a
I'm
third
on it.
vote for library?
What number is that?
One.
First
One.
One.
Okay, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
3 votes for
three.
that, okay. What about the new vehicle that needs to be purchased for the line painting, is that? Where's that rank?
I'm gonna defer to the public works director. He and I have had a conversation.
Yeah, so this vehicle is to replace a van that we're using right now, which we've used traditionally in the past, towing a trailer. We have paint machines, we have, hydraulic, signpost installers, ladders, pipes for new, signposts that are hauled out into the field. It's done with the van. It's tough on the staff. Dragging those things in and out through a van door, through a side door. This vehicle is really, it's kind of like a PennDOT type vehicle. It actually has a lift on the side of it, a hydraulic man lift, so that the person can be lifted and place the signs on the post and drive the post into the ground instead of using an 8-foot step ladder, which is not as safe as using
Workman's comp.
yeah, those type of things, back injuries,
Right.
shoulders. We're seeing a lot. We're seeing a lot of those things now,
That's what we
so.
protect against.
This vehicle is basically equipped just to do those particular things. It has a lift gate on the back, a hydraulic lift gate that would lift the paint machine into the back versus running it up on ramps into a trailer. It's an extended cab, so the entire crew would fit in one vehicle, which they do now with the van, but you know, the four-person crew would be in that van. So it replaces an existing vehicle that we will put up for auction or sell, or offer for trade for the new vehicle.
Sure.
This is the list price, but it's completely laid out. It has electric in it for running power tools and so forth in the field. It's basically a self-sustaining type of vehicle that does that particular thing.
While you're sitting here, what is the separate bid for the building you need down at Public Works? Is there a separate bid? I shouldn't say what is it? Is there? That's a carve out of the $1 million for the fire?
Yeah, I provided that. Do you remember what that number was? I
Is it
don't,
like 200-300?
don't have it to memory.
I don't have, to be honest with you, I don't remember what the number is.
I
No
forget
problem.
what the number is.
All right.
It was based
Question.
on
Well,
our
my bad
original
for not
bids and
asking
then
earlier,
inflation.
yeah. No big, okay, thanks.
The space up here is filled up with a lot of other information. That-
No,
that didn't
sidewalks,
stay.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
I know.
Does commission have any other questions for Mr. Sukol? I had 2 yes votes for this truck, but I've not heard a third.
Which number is it?
It's line 9.
Number 9.
There it is,
But I've heard only 2 yeses, not 3, so,
126.
right, so as
Okay.
enthusiastic as the 2 votes are, if we can't get a third one, it doesn't pass.
I'm okay waiting till budget for that one.
Agreed.
Okay.
Commissioner Flynn?
I'm fine waiting.
That's a no, all right, sorry, Rudy.
No.
Golf course equipment replacement?
Yeah, I wanted to chat about that too.
You have to chat about that. Do we have Colin come out and explain, or?
Please, yeah.
42,000, it looks like it's got a big explanation in there.
Yeah, my understanding is we tried, but
You did budget for this piece of equipment for this year.
the time.
When we went out, we were told that we would not get it
Get it.
this year.
So that's-
There were 2 other pieces of equipment we felt were of
Yeah.
equal priority, so we're going to have that purchase now.
Just a
The request
substitute.
here would be to substitute,
Right,
but to authorize now so that we could put the purchase order in, so that
Got
we'll be assured that we get it for the 24 season.
That
Sorry,
makes sense to me. I
Right.
vote yes for that.
misspoke anything.
Oh, no, you're 100% right
Okay.
there.
Now, the stuff that you want to get essentially instead, the greens roller and the utility cart, I mean, it's. Royce, the grass still grows, the golfers still golf, so I
Yeah.
mean, there's certain things that, no matter what the supply chain issues are. There's some demand, the stuff that you're using now, has that reached end of life?
For the greens mower?
Well, the other stuff, the proposed purchasing instead, which is the utility
Utility
cart
cart,
and the greens roller.
The greens roller, yes, that was about almost 20 years old, the old one.
Good.
The utility cart, there's not even a utility cart there, second utility cart. So they've been using one of our golf carts as a utility cart.
Okay.
I'm also going to interject here. During the 2023 budget process, which Colin was not a part of, the golf course did come to us with all 3 items for the 2023 budget. As part of the discussion was the most important piece was the greens mower. These other two items, the utility cart and the greens roller were also, greens roller were also on there as well. But they pushed those for 2024. This is part of their annual capital investment within the equipment side of the golf course. So this would be part and parcel as part of their normal budget process. Really, this is to encumber it now so we can ensure that we get it in 2024. This will be before the commission and will be part of the 2024 budget process no matter what, but we need to do it now so that we can ensure that we get it in 24. We've done this before. We did this with police vehicles a number of years ago, in which they were switching to the hybrid version the hybrid version. They were also changing out the cab interior. So all of our upfits would have to be brand new and would save us some money if we purchased them early, at least put in the encumbrance early. And we did that as part of the unassigned fund balance process as well.
What I don't understand is that we're talking about buying something, putting in the PO for 2024. But also the question, do we want to add additional equipment for 2023? So it sounds like the proposal is to buy it both years.
We had already
Correct.
budgeted the greens mower in 2023. So what we're saying is we're going to use those funds now to buy the roller and the utility cart, and then just encumber funds so that we could purchase the greens mower in 2024 and then not ask for additional equipment in 2024.
That's correct.
Commission feel about that?
I'm good with that.
I'm okay
Yeah,
with
I
that.
support that.
All right, okay,
I'm
great.
okay.
So that's a
It's
yes.
just it's a timing issue at this point.
Yeah, we'll
That's
just,
fine.
we'll get it back.
We don't want to be in this position next year where we can't get it till 2025.
Yeah.
So there we go.
All right, great.
No, wait, while you're
Thank
here.
you.
Anything else
Ice
for you?
rink
Yeah,
resurfacer.
that's right. There's a both the end of them.
Oh, this is both.
Seeing it.
Yes, the
It's
question.
on the
about
budget, it's off the budget, it's not the
All
budget.
right, Colin, it's not you.
It's in ours in capital.
Okay.
And has been for a few years. We have 2 electric units. The one, it's in the capital, but I think it's like a 94. I don't know if anyone has their capital budget in. But, you know, we've been at times where we've had both down and we're like, we were managed to get one up and running,
Right.
you know, in time before we can't cut ice. The older unit is on its last legs. It's really time to replace that and get a newer unit in. I mean, even our new unit is something like 2012-ish, so probably 12 years old.
And that's why I had suggested this as being more of a bond or note, just because it's a durable good. You know, the idea of saying to last 25 years or something like that. So that was the idea of buying something that is gonna last a while as opposed to a lawnmower, which may not last as long. That was why
Yeah, but I
that was
really,
my suggestion.
am worried, I guess, about the amount of money we can put into a bond that we're gonna have significant upgrades to the recreational building. We have to, among other things. And then, if we follow the plan, that is. And then the other one is the south garage. I was under the understanding we were coming close to the end of the life of that. And so I mean, it's more a matter for me of thinking about how much should we be saving our borrowing power because we have these big projects.
And fire training facility.
And fire trains, of course,
Those are
yes.
big
You'll
ones.
see a presentation on the engineering study related to the South Garage
Okay,
in August.
okay,
I will tell you that most likely, those funds will come out of the parking enterprise fund.
okay,
But at some point, well, there will need to be a significant bond issue
yeah,
for that structure if we are able to follow the recommendations and follow the plan. The
okay,
hope is that we start planning now
exactly,
for
yeah.
what we want that
What
structure to be
Yeah,
when we reach that point in time. And then in the next 4 to 5 years, continue to put
Yeah.
maintenance dollars into the garage.
Sure. that's what I'm
To
thinking
reach
about
that.
for the rec center too, is that, we need to be planning ahead for, but we don't know what we're gonna do, but.
And this is just a timing question. I think we need to get to do ice surface, I guess. The question of, is it now with this funding here or as part of an upcoming bond? So that's get back to, I'm in favor of the expenditure, just how we do it.
How much do we have left, Andrew? We can't see the screen.
There's like 355, 420. G. C.
Oh, that, the one in parentheses, okay, 355.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying we have to do this now, but I'm just gonna put a plug in for the North Meadowcroft Park Phase 3. That's part 3 of a 3-phased project, and I think it started 5 years ago. I don't know.
And that was one where, again, back to my suggestion about being a bond or note, just because it's a big ticket item. And, you know, it's gonna last a while.
Yeah,
You know, much the same way where I've been asking about steps at Timber Creek and going. Can we do, I'd like to spend the money, but do that as a bond or note. Again, it's a more durable, good type thing as opposed to, let's say, we've, you know, one of the things that's discussed, the possibility of the route analysis GPS, which is more of a short-term usage kind of thing. So that's my thought process.
You know, when I started to look at these expenses, the thing I went back to was the comprehensive plan. Because I think that the mandate from the citizens is to be funding those things which will help our recreation department improve, it will help with the walkability of the community, will help with the safety of the community. So I really focused on traffic calming. I focused on possibly putting some money aside for more sidewalk studies that would be needed in 2024. That's the way I was thinking. Some of the equipment, sure, but I think we really ought to be listening very hard to what people were saying in the comprehensive plan, because we had such a great turnout
Right.
for that. And so that's where when I started to go through it, what I
Yeah.
thought of.
Yeah,
I
and trying
agree.
to balance that with, like, we've got this rec center, the public safety center facade roof, 121,000 to say, how do we?
And that was
I hear you.
because it came in
That's
over
the-
bid.
yes, which we could rebid maybe a different time, different material pricing.
I don't know. I don't
Is
know if
that-
it'll
Can we do that?
drop much.
On the public safety
Yeah,
center.
you think that it
roof-
came in higher than you
Well,
thought.
yeah, I mean, it's another one that, we heard a lot of different things. We talked about that today. We think that it's definitely needs some clarification, and we could put it back out to bid and maybe couple it with some masonry work that would be the second phase of that, because there is some coordination between masonry and roof work that would make sense together. So that's kind of where we stood, right?
Yeah, I think that was part of it was timing too, you know, it's just. Most contractors have their work lined up. for the
Yeah,
rest of the
exactly.
year.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're gonna throw a high number out there if they get it, if it sticks, it's good for them,
Right.
if not, and we only got one bidder, so.
Another one better, yeah, so rebid is the answer probably.
But we also heard that when the bidder that bid on it bids it, everybody else runs away too.
Oh,
And then he decided to put a higher number in for whatever reason on this one. You know, the things you can't predict, you can't predict.
No, you can't, yeah.
We had the feasibility study done. And then we looked at, you know, the couple options that came from that, and I think it was pretty clear that looking at doing something where the existing rec center was probably gonna be our best option, so it seems to me we should take that down the line rather than doing Band-Aid fixes.
You mean as far as the south garage, or you mean the rec center?
I'm talking about
Okay.
rec center.
Yeah.
Right, and we're obviously, you know, until we get the results of this study to see what they're suggesting, that sort of thing, and
That's
then back to. If you're
How
talking about
much?
borrowing
Yeah.
capacity,
How
how
much?
much for
Yeah.
the park, how much for the rec center,
Right.
you know, some of these other items. You know, we don't know what that bill is
Right.
yet, or what the proposed bill is yet. But I think there's at least agreement to rebid this public safety center works, at least that's off the chart.
Okay.
That we're evaluating. So we still have 355 left. And the question of kind of what's left on the sheet to review.
I would vote for putting a little aside for sidewalks, so we can continue doing more studies or fund some of the sidewalks installations from the 3 studies we just approved.
And I'm just gonna sort of put out there that we have 2 conversations that are almost done, but not done.
Yeah.
And Ian and I have had a conversation about bringing those back, hopefully in August.
Okay,
One is for a Brick Street policy,
right,
and one is also for the revised sidewalk policy.
right.
Both of those from policy decision. Policy is one point of decision, but then there will be funds necessary.
Yeah.
To implement some of those pieces, yeah.
Both of those forward. So, and I don't know what that number is, but
No, it's hard to say.
I mean, if we feel good about what we've chosen and we're indecisive about some of the other things that we need to do, or we're pushing some to budget, we could cap where we are here.
True.
Yeah, did we include the Zamboni?
No, we did not get a finalization on the Zamboni of,
I
you know,
just thought that
now,
was kind of a
now.
hanging chad.
You know, the question, like I said, I'm in favor of the expenditure. I just thought it'd be more of a bond thing. Dave, how much to the end of life is the current,
One of them is 26 years old. The
I
other
don't know,
one is 8 years
that
old.
maybe just broken in. I don't know.
I think based to David, just to back you up on that, I mean, I think we're replacing batteries on those. There's gonna be, they're tougher to find. You're really only seeing more maintenance on that machine as the second line vehicle for cut and ice. So I think the time is now if you're gonna do it. It's never gonna be a sexy item, excuse my language, but it's never gonna be a sexy item for budget time, but it is something when you have the funds available for a 25-year piece of equipment, and when you have the money, it's time to do it now.
Certainly from a timing standpoint, of like I mentioned about bond or note, and if we do a bond, it's gonna take, what, 6 months before we get a bond out there as opposed to, what's the lead time on buying a new Zamboni?
I
I'm
know.
serious, it's like a truck, is it, I mean, is it?
Is this the
Well,
time to
3
bond
months?
I know you're
things with
talking
the
about
insurance
bonds,
rate, with
but-
the interest
And
rates?
yeah, I know you're talking about bond, but I'm just looking for query to recommend what we should bond.
He
or
talked,
in-
he talked about that in his proposal.
If you want, but not in this, not this
matter.
discussion, he'll
Okay.
bring us,
gonna go down.
okay.
Ever?
I mean, I think he would recommend a bond,
Not
if he
anytime
would
soon.
put it on this list, if I thought it'd be better for.
Well, he mentioned in part of his presentation, we talk about bonds, there's debt service projections, please see whatever, so it's part of his
Yeah,
proposal.
It's coming.
I just was more going back to the timing of going, like the lawnmower, where the mower, it's not till 2024.
Right.
Zamboni, similar kind of thing?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. I would have to ask Tim if he knows, like, we have to look at that. If we think
Well,
we're.
the other thing too, David, I believe the newest Zamboni, I believe, was replaced in 2017 as with the 2017 note, I believe, or bond issue. I
It was
apologize.
15, Andrew.
15, yeah. So this would be a nice 10-year gap between approximate 10-year gap between machines as well, to set up for future as well, for the next replacement that's coming in 2035 for that machine that we bought in 2015. So I think the further you get into that, the closer the gap becomes to what you're gonna have to replace in the future.
Andrew, from a process and procedure question, if we said, yes, we recognize the need to buy this Zamboni, we're just not sure to fund it through a bond or fund it through unassigned funds, is that the sort of thing where the lead time's so long, we almost don't have to make a decision yet on how to pay for it? No, seriously, I mean, it's like,
No, we're not putting a PO in without funding being approved by the commission, if that's what you're asking.
I'm sorry.
You have to have they need approval before they're gonna cut a
We need a
PO.
purchase order.
Right, so, but my point is.
So as Steve's saying, if the lead time is 2 years, can we wait until next year to make that decision?
No, what I'm saying is, if we approve it today, say, yes, we want to spend 155,780 on the Zamboni. And then 6 months from now, we're issuing a bond, can we just say, given the Zamboni hasn't arrived yet, can we
Oh, gosh.
buy that for the bond, and that
Yeah.
frees up that unassigned funds we can allocate for
Yes.
sidewalks?
Yes, the answer to that question is yes. There's specific, depending on what the timing is, if it comes in and we already at a note or at a bond issue, we'd have to do something. It's called a reimbursement resolution. Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's called a reimbursement resolution. That you can purchase something before the debt proceeds are received to then, but also you can do it after the fact as well.
So that's just for internal accounting. Okay.
Yeah.
got it.
Yes, that's correct.
So let's at least allocate the funds for the Zamboni so that the order can be placed.
Yeah, I think so.
I support that.
Well, the orders, I mean, this is gonna come back before you. So remember that we're gonna do it. Your intention is to do it. So we will, David and his crew will prepare this for a future commission session, which will either be August or September. they'll get that before you and we'll affirm that we're gonna do it with unassigned fund balance at that time. And then depending on whatever the lead time is at that point and whatever comes in, we'll revisit with the commission if there's an additional funding source that you would like to fund that with.
Wonderful. So for now, we say we're using it for unassigned funds. I'll let you done typing to see what is the remaining.
Don't pay attention to the specific, because I'm not, or the unassigned versus ARPA. Just pay attention to the 199 because it's cumulative.
That's what I was looking for, the
I'll
199,
I'll split the fund later.
That's okay. So roughly $200,000 away.
Keith, is it too early, or do you have, I know in the past, Andrew had talked about getting budgets into you by May, June, that kind of stuff, you know, starting to get numbers. I'm just curious, based on some of the conversations we had today about, you know, part-time work and fees and stuff like that. I don't know if they've given you that information, or we should start holding back money as a discussion of maybe having a little more around when we start those conversations.
And they've started those conversations. I don't have those numbers yet. They're coming into finance is
Right.
processing those. So
So
I
I need to
haven't
look at all
seen
that
those yet.
together, right?
Yeah.
It's a little early.
Typically we'll do that end of August.
Right.
Do
Okay.
we want to, from here, to say with, you know, with the money that remains? Like I had thrown out at the beginning about, you know, some money for the trash contract. Of course, we have not made a decision yet on what you're going to do for funding that yet, but if you say, kind of, let's stop here, we've got roughly 200,000 left, we can see
See what
where
comes
it
up.
comes with the trash contract. Some of the other stuff, obviously you mentioned, there's a sidewalk
Yeah,
policy, a Brick Street
sidewalks,
policy that's last being addressed. So are we fine with just stopping here for now?
I think that would be prudent, just
Yeah.
because there are some unknowns out there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
I prefer to do that, because nothing else is jumping out as urgent, you know, we have budget coming up.
I got 3 yeses, but
Yeah.
Commissioner Grella, okay.
Mr. Flynn.
Stop just talking all the time.
I know. He's looking at the phone. I'm looking at our aggregate.
Your silence is
I'm looking at our aggregate debt service.
Your silence is interrupting everything.
Advice, any thoughts?
I can't give you advice.
Any thoughts on what we should do?
Yeah, this looks fine.
Okay.
All right, yeah, great. Okay, so we can put this one to bed for now.
We save some money left over for in case something comes up.
Well,
we know
really,
stuff's coming
we
up.
have about 3 things that are coming up, so.
Yeah, we got
Everybody
some biggies coming up.
know
Yeah,
stuff.
that tsunami's coming. So, all right,
And I do think we should revisit all of these in some way, shape or form in
Yeah.
the budget conversation. So stuff that was on here was clearly stuff we talked about and wanted to move forward. So, you know, hopefully directors will put that in budgets, or, you know, whether it's above or below the item, that stuff should come forward for discussion.
well, that, and it may be conversations we have before then, like.
Sure.
We get to the brick policy, we get the sidewalk policy, and we may be starting earmarking things.
Yeah.
Before that point.
Okay.
Ian's here.
Alright.
One note to add for the commission, because Mr. McGill referenced it and it got brought up during the conversation as well. Andrew, Rudy and I have been talking with Waste Management and Westmoreland to get some clarification and shake on some things from the
Yeah.
garbage bid. So our intent is to have a memo to the commission at the latest in your packets next week, because Andrew's on vacation this week. So we're gonna draft it up I'm gonna draft it this week. I'll run it by Andrew next week when he gets back from vacation. So we should have something for you in your packets end of next week to have some time to review in advance of the August meeting. So just for keep an eye on your packet, not this Friday, but next Friday.
And remind us what our outstanding decision points are, you know?
I don't remember.
Yeah, so automated versus manual collection, weekly versus bi-weekly recycling. And then if you go automated collection, then who owns the bins, whether they are owned by the contractor or owned by the municipality.
Right.
I've had some conversation with some of our surrounding communities as well. I know Rudy and Andrew have also talked to some of our surrounding communities, so we've got a lot more information coming in that we're gonna kind of distill into a supplemental memo for the commission, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that you should have that well in advance of the August meeting.
I did
It's gonna be a mini essay, not a full essay, just a mini essay.
a brief.
They agree.
Not 36 pages?
Called bullet points, yes. But yeah, I checked my recycling cans, about 50 gallon, 52 gallons, and we're talking about those 96 gallon can. Is that one of the decision points, Louis? A 96 gallon can
No.
versus a,
No.
That doesn't have to be made right now.
I mean, is that one of the August 8th decision points?
No.
We're gonna do 84, right? Is it not standard 96, whatever? Is that what you
96.
said?
What they tell you
Yeah,
to do.
96.
96 is the standard. We don't have to decide that now. That can be a later point.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, any other topics that include Mr. McCreary relating to finance? Otherwise, we will pivot.
Enjoy
to-
your vacation.
Yes, enjoy your vacation wherever you may be.
I'll tell you one day.
Cagey he is, yes. All right, shifting to boards and authorities.
We don't have any meetings.
No, we're having meeting.
School is still out of session.
Yeah.
Thank you for that news flash.
School is still out of session. Yeah,
Connect has
library
new,
board didn't
Connect
meet.
has new offices.
Oh, good,
They're off at campus,
cool.
so they are in their own offices now, but they are trying to go to different municipalities like they came to ours,
Mhm.
for meetings. They did have a meeting, in, Crafton, which was well
Nice
attended,
place.
had a good discussion. Yep. Just trying to move a variety of things forward. Waste management did come up as a regional topic. Yeah, but it was really just kind of more broad strategy discussions about where Connect is going and what the vision is for Connect as it transitions into a kind of outside of PIT organization, thinking about its strategic purpose.
And it's sustainable.
It is sustainable, has very robust funding from
Good.
lots of great sources, foundations, grants. They're doing a lot of great work in terms of fundraising to support all the municipalities
Good.
in these kind of strategic issues.
Shaycog agreed to continue having meetings via Zoom. That was kind of the big. So that was the big
Victory.
thing. Like,
That's a victory.
keep doing it.
Handling that meeting, by the way.
No, I could vote on that and say yes.
Thank you for handling that meeting.
Use Zoom. All right. Anything else? Okay, hearing that, we are adjourned. See you in the room.
Yeah.